Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Akal and today this is a new practical on VPN. So let's see what we are required to do in this practical. So this is example for establishing multiple IPSec tunnels between the enterprise headquarters and branches using IPSec policy groups. The networking requirement is as follows, as shown in the figure that is below. Router A and Router B are branch gateways and RouterC is the headquarters gateway. The headquarters and branches communicate through the internet. The gateway's IP addresses are fixed. The subnet of branch A and B and headquarters are 192.168.1.0/24, 192.168.2.0/24 and 192.168.3.0/24 respectively. The enterprise wants to protect data flows between the branch subnets and the headquarters subnets. IPSec tunnels can be set up between the branch gateways and headquarters gateway because they communicate over the internet. Because branch gateways IP addresses can be specified on the headquarters gateway, an IPSec policy group can be configured on RouterC. The headquarters gateway can initiate IPSec negotiation to each branch gateway or receive IPSec negotiation requests from each branch gateway to complete setup of multiple IPSec tunnels. So this is the topology, how the topology look like. This is what we are going to configure. Now let's see the roadmap. So configuration roadmap. Configure roadmap is as follows. Configure IP addresses and static routes from interfaces so that routes among the three gateways are reachable. Configure ACLs to define data flows to be protected. Configure IPSec proposal to define the method used to protect IPSec traffic. Configure IKE peers to define IKE negotiation attributes, and configure IPSec policies on Router A and Router B. Create IPSec policy groups on Router C to define protection methods for data flows between Router A and Router C and between Router B and Router C. So that's the roadmap. Now let's look how our topology looks like. So this is how our topology look like. So if you are following our videos, in our previous video we set up the configuration for the routes. So we configure the static routes to ensure that the routes are reachable, to ensure that PC1 here can ping PC3 here on the headquarter. Also PC2 here on branch 2 can also ping PC3 here on the headquarter. So we can just test to see if what you are talking about is correct. So ping network 192.168.3.1. so it's able to reach. Okay, while we are on PC1, also test while we are on PC2. So ping 192.168.3.1 should be able to go. So also come on this other side and you ping and see if you can reach that network. So ping either of those two network 192.168.1.1 you'll be able to go. Also ping .2 network subnet of 2.1 will be able to go. So meaning that the headquarter and the branch are able to communicate successfully. So now the thing we are going to implement is now security, so that in case you are an employer and you are gone on a business trip but you still need to maintain your network remotely, you can log into your network, but ensure the link is secured. So that's why we require the VPN between the branch and the headquarter over the internet. So before we continue with that, I'd like to show you something here. So when you configure this chart, when you see this, look at this chart here. This is a chart for both Huawei and Cisco, how you can configure the VPN on IPSec based. So for Huawei, this is how it starts. You start and you basic configuration, configure interfaces, and configure the security policies. Then after basic configuration, you configure routes. After configuring routes, you configure ACLs. Then after ACLs, you configure the IPSec proposals. After IPSec proposals are followed by IPSec by IKE proposals. Then after configuring IKE proposal, we configure IKE peers. Then configure policies that where we are going to bind all the IKE and the ACLs. Then finally we apply it on the interface, then the end. While on Cisco, this is how you can configure VPN. So you start, then you set the basic configuration, that is configure interfaces and configure control policies. Then you configure routes. After configuring routes, configure ACL. So then you configure IPSec proposal. So the difference now, after IPSec proposal, you configure IKE proposal, then configure IPSec policy. The difference between Cisco and Huawei is that for Cisco, we don't configure IKE peers. So the IKE peers are found in the IKE proposal. So that's the flowchart on this one. Help you to summarize and make work easier now, so that when you jump into configuration, you know what you have to configure step by step. From let's say routes, you go to ACL. From ACL, you go to IPSec proposal. From IPSec proposal, you go to IKE proposal. From IKE proposal, you go to IKE peers. Then from IKE peers, you go to IPSec policies. Then you bind it on the interface. Then your configuration will be over like that. So this is the practical we're going to implement. So as usual, once we've set our IP addresses, now the thing we are going to do, first of all, we are going to configure the ACL to match the routes that are to be protected. So first of all, we are going to create, these are advanced ACL. So ACL 3002, and the ACL 2002, the network, the network. So rule, we are going to set rule we are going to set to 10. We are going to set rule to 10. Then we tell it to permit IP source. IP source, our source is 192.168.2.1.0. Subnet mask, a wildcard mask of 0.0.0.0.255. Then destination, we are going to set to that one of the on the headquarter side for 192.168.3.0, wildcard mask of 0.0.0.255. You do the same to this the guy here, this PC, this router on the router on branch 2. Now you configure ACL to match that route. So ACL 3002. Then rule, we set rule to 10. Then we tell it to permit IP source, permit IP source. So the source IP will be 192.168.2.0, wildcard mask of 0.0.0.255. Destination being 192.168.20 0 wildcard mask of 0.0.0.0.255. After that, the next thing you're going to do, you also come on this, but we are going to create two SCL. So we said on switch C here is where we're going to create the groups, because the destination here are 2 now. So SCL, you're going to create two SCL. So SCL SCL 3002. Then the next, so IP set rule 10 IP permit rule 10 permit source permit IP source of 192.168.3.0 subnet mask of 0.0.0.255. That's the wildcard mask. Then destination, we're going to set to 192.168.1.0 wildcard mask of 0.0.0.0 0.0.0.255. After that, you configure SCL, the second SCL, so SCL 3003. So rule 10 permit source permit IP source, that is 192.168.3.0 / 0.0.0.255. and next then the destination will be 192.168.2.0 wildcard mask of 0.0.0.0.255. So we are done with SCLs. After configuring SCLs, the next thing we are going to do, after configuring SCLs, the next thing we are going to do, we are now going to configure the IPSec proposal. So we quit IPSec proposal set 5. In the IPSec proposal, we create the transform. The transform is ESP. Then we set the encapsulation mode. So encapsulation mode, use tunnel, and after that you set the authentication. So ESP authentication SHA-1. Then ESP authentication and encryption algorithm, use the 3-dash triple dash. After that, so let's display and see. After that, you do the same, you do both to this other guy also. So you quit and create IPSec proposal. IPSec proposal set 5. So then encapsulation mode, I set tunnel, and transform set ESP. Then the next thing will be configuring now authentication, ESP authentication SHA-1, then ESP encryption algorithm is set to triple dash. Also come to switch C here, you create the IPSec proposal, so you quit. So IPSec proposal 5. Then your encapsulation mode, Encapsulation mode is tunnel. Transform ESP. Then set authentication. ESP authentication. SHA-1. Then ESP encryption. Algorithm is set to triple dash. So we are done with that. So that's why we said you must know the sequence. So after you configure the IK proposal, the next thing we are going to configure will now be the IK peer. So you can also confirm here. So after you configure the ACL, you go to IPSec proposal. Now you configure the IK proposal. Then after the IK proposal, you configure the IK peers. So come to your device. So come to your device here. You create IKE proposal. Set IK proposal 1. IK proposal 1. In the IK proposal, we are going to configure authentication mode. Authentication algorithm is said SHA-1. Encryption algorithm is said 3 CBC. After that, I create the Hellman group. So the Hellman group is said group 14. After that, you create the essay durations. Essay duration is said 86,400, and after that, display and see. Also, you do the same to this other guy. So you quit and create the IK proposal. IK proposal to 1, and after creating the IK proposal, now you authentication, set the authentication mode to SHA-1. Encryption algorithm is set to 3 CBC. After that, the Hellman, I said group 14. Then the essay duration is said is 86,400 seconds. Come to this the PC RouterC here. Also you create the IK proposal 1. The IK proposal set the authentication mode, authentication algorithm to SHA-1, then encryption to 3 CBC. Then the Hellman is said group 14. Then essay duration is 86,400. After that, the next thing we are going to do now will be configuring that. The next thing we configure will be IKE. Now we configure the IKE peer. So come to this quit and create the IKE peer. So IKE peer, can give it a name. So IKE peer 1. So you set IKE to P2. Then IKE P2. Now after that, I configure the pre-shared key. So pre-shared key will be cipher HUAWEI at 123. After pre-shared key, then we configure the remote IP address. So the remote IP address will be 60.1.3.1. After configuring the remote address, the next thing we configure is now we can also configure the local address, or you can leave it. You can leave it. You can ignore it. Then you configure the proposal. You bind the IK proposal to that IK peer. So the IK proposal we set to 1. You also come to this other router. You quit and you create the IK peer. So IK peer is set P2. Let's check if we use the uppercase, because these things you'll be able to synchronize. We used an uppercase. Make sure also this guy also you use an uppercase. Then version 1. There the thing is the pre-shared key will be a cipher HUAWEI shift 1 2 3. And the next thing we configure now is the remote. So remote address will be 60.1.3.1. After configuring that, the next thing we configure is now you bind the proposal into that peer. So IK proposal 1, bind it to that peer. Then when you come to switch 2 here, we are going to create the groups. So we create the IK groups for those two branches. So IK peer. So first peer will be 2, then version 1. Then a pre-shared key we set to cipher HUAWEI. HUAWEI at 1 2 3. Then after setting the pre-shared key, the local address, remote address. The first remote address will be for branch 1. So remote address will be 60.1.1.1. Then after setting the remote, the next thing we do is now we bind the proposal. So IK proposal 1. Then we enter the next group for group 4P for configure the peer group for branch 2. So IK peer, then this one will be P3 version 1. So pre-shared key cipher set password to HUAWEI. So HUAWEI shift at 1 2 3. Then after that, the next thing we do is you set the remote address. The remote address will be 60.1.2.1. Then I bind the IK proposal into that peer 1. Okay, so we are done with configuring the IK proposal. Then the IK peer. So after configuring the IK peer, the next thing we do is now you configure the IPSec policy. So you create and enter IPSec policy. Then you give the policy name policy 1. Then the value we set to 10. Then as ISOM. After that, the next thing we are going to do, you know that in the IPSec policy where we bind the security ACL, also we bind the proposal and also the IK peer. So proposal was 5, so the security proposal was 5, the IPSec proposal was 5. Then IK peer, we bind IK peer p2. After that, the next thing we do also, we bind the security SEL of 3002. After display this and see. So as you can see what we bond, so we bond these 3. You do the same to router. Do the same to router on branch 2 here. So create the IPSec policy, then the policy name policy 1, and value, give it a value of 10, integer of 10. Then that, after that you bind the security SEL 3002. After that, the proposal, you bind also the proposal which we set to 5. Also you bind the IK peer. IK peer was p2. After that, after binding those 3, you display this. You can see them here. Then after binding those 3, you also come to RouterC here on the headquarter, and also you create the IPSec policy based on the group. So IPSec policy name, we set the policy 1. Value, set the first value for group 1 to 10, then as ISA KMP. Then the first bind the proposal, so proposal 5, the IPSec proposal was 5. Then we bind the IK peer. IK peer we set p2 for the first group. Then the SEL, the security SEL for group 1 will be 3002. Then you quit, and also you create another group. So IPSec policy 1, that's the name, policy 1. Then this time we set the integer to 11, and as after that we bind the proposal. The proposal value was 5. After binding the proposal value, they bind also the IK peer. The IK peer this time is the one that we set for group 2, which was p3. Then after that, the security profile, the security SEL for this case will be 3003. That was for group 2. So you quit. Then the last stage of this configuration, now the last step will be now binding these ones into the interfaces that connect to those gateways. So you quit. You quit and enter interface gig 0/0/1 IP, not IP address. After entering this interface, the thing we are going to do, you bind IPSec policy, then policy 1. Also come to this for branch 2 here. You quit and you bind all the configuration to the interface. So interface gig 0/0/1 IPSec policy 1 that we just created. So again you come to PC2 here. PC RouterC and interface gig 0/0/1. You bind that IPSec proposal. So IPSec policy 1. So after that, we are just through with our configuration. Even if you look at the steps that we set, we want to configure the interfaces, configure routes, ACL, configure IPSec proposal. After configuring the IPSec proposal, we configure the IKE proposal, then we configure the IKE peers, then finally we bound the IKE peers, IKE proposal, and also the IKE IPSec proposal into the IPSec policy. Then after that, we've applied policies onto the interface. Then after that, you can see it's an end. So that's bring us to the end of the configuration. So that's how we configure VPN. So we are going to check. We're going to check what we've done. So we display IKSA. When we display IKSA, so you can see here the peer. The peer has an address of 60.1.3.1, and the face also, you can see the face here. The same thing you can also do here. You can display IKSA. You see the same thing. You still have the same peer. And now let's come to RouterC here and see. So display it's IKSA, and you configure that. You can see the peers are 60.1.2.1 and 60.1.1.1. Also, the next thing, you can also as well check the IK display IPSec policy. And display IPSec policy, you can see here the policy group was policy 1, and the sequence number was 10, SCL flow was 3000, peer name was P2, the perfect for was none, so the proposal we set to 5. Then the IPSec SA local timer was default, then SA trigger mode was automatic. Again, you can also display IPSec SA. And display IPSec SA. You can see the policy name, policy 1, sequence number 10, SCL group 3002, SCL rule was 10, and the mode was ISAKMP. The tunnel connection ID was 3, and the tunnel the mode is tunnel. So tunnel local address was 60.1.1.1. Then the remote address was 60.1.3.2. The source flow was 192.168.1.0. Then the destination was 192.168.3.0. So you can see those are how you can configure the VPN. So I think that's what we want to implement here, guys, and we are just through the configuration. So let's display on this side. So display IPSec SA. So when you display that, you see just the same. For this side now, the local will be 60.1.3.1, then the peer will be 60.1.1.1. So That's how you implement the VPN based on IPSec, which is the most highly secured VPN. So that's all about it, and thank you for watching the video.